Adam and Jackie Sappington. They're chef owners of the Country Cat, Harlow, and Prasad. We knew them. They worked with us a couple of years ago and actually did a culinary road trip to Country Cat, and they were speakers on our stage. We were there with ICCA, and we're just an amazing couple and very talented individuals in our industry. And then Bill King, which many of you would know from King's Farm to Table, but you know him when he was, also with McCormick and Schmick's and Crave. So he was a member of both associations, both ICCA and GCIA over the years, and a member for like 15 plus years. But now he's got a micro farm and farm stand. That was going to be on our culinary road trip this time around. And then we have Alan Kahn, who's the VP of Food Service for the Idaho Potato Commission, and Adam Moore, which many of you know, who's been, affiliated with our association for many years. He is the president of Flashpoint Innovation, basically a consultant to the Idaho Potato Commission and other clients, and a very creative guy who's got a lot of good innovative ideas today. So thanks to all of you for being on here. Really appreciate that. And let's start with Jackie and Adam. I mean, obviously, we kind of led into a little bit of what's going on there. We know you have an airport location, and we just talked about how the national news affects travel there. So why don't we start with that and then talk more so about what you have been doing with Harlow, especially.
Yeah, so the airport, we closed that middle of March, I think, like everybody else did.
And that location was open. We had just crossed our 5-year term in that space. So we had been open for 5 years in the airport. It was our second location to our street location. And so then leading up to the massive shutdown in March, and that's what you're saying,
yeah,
is when we shut down operation at the airport because travel went down 95%.
So it makes it tough when the employments drop, so drastically, and we just haven't seen the employments come up enough to be able to open it for any viable business for what it would take to keep open. So, so that's kind of that with the airport at this point.
Yeah, when do you think you'll be able to open there?
Well, I don't know. We'd love to shoot for December 1, but we could also look at March 1 as well. So
it really depends on how the course of the employments come back up.
Port of Portland is being really lenient and very understanding, which helps. All airports are different, so the port here is great. It helps out really well.
Yeah, I think at the height, like I was saying, employments went down from they were down 95%. And just to give you perspective on that, a typical March day is like 30,000 people a day going through our airport. We're not a huge airport, but we're a good mid-size airport. That went down to less than 1,000, like 500 at times at the lowest point. So it was this crazy fallout. And at this point, we're at about down 70%. And we're hoping that employments can get to 50% of what the seasonal average is, and that would help us get a better idea of how we can open in some capacity. The port's been very flexible that you don't have to open 100% as we were during this time, that we can be open in some capacity, some limited capacity as hopefully things start to ramp up.
And that would be grab and go, because we have about a 600 square foot grab and go zone and the bar, but that's what we'd start with and then slowly implement how, it's a sit down restaurant. So it's just going to be determined on how we need to pivot in order to turn it into either counter service or if it's just strictly to go, or there's just still a lot of unknowns with it.
And you also sell Stumptown coffee there, because I bought it many times.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Good.
So, yeah, talk to us about, so since then, Harlow's, talk to us about that and, what you've done and how invigorating that is now for you.
Yeah, it was a big pivot for us. We purchased Harlow and Prasad 2 years ago, right about this time, and kind of a switch in regards to, culinary perspective going into a plant-based restaurant as opposed to what Country Cat is, which is not a plant-based restaurant. I mean, let's be honest. So it was definitely widening our horizons with that, but it's also a lifestyle change for us too. And the pivot for that has been actually really good in a lot of ways. As a cook, my whole life it was given the opportunity to completely submerge myself into wellness, mindfulness, and in a plant-based perspective when it's approaching a menu. So approaching a menu from a plant-based way without having any meat involved, was a complete switch for me. And I would say it took me a little time, but it really took me going back into the kitchen full time once COVID hit, because we had to lay everybody off. And then Jackie and I kept the restaurant open by me in the back and Jackie up front, and we just ran it. So, with that being said, and being a cook, in nature, it was a matter of really tightening up the systems and getting it in place, and really localizing even more of the purchasing that we're doing here. So there's silver linings to everything. And through this, I think everybody's looking for that every day. So that's really helped me keep my head on my shoulders, is really getting back into the kitchen and being in there every day. And, only really running one restaurant as opposed to 4 to 5. So it allows you to have a little more time on your hands and be able to get back into the stove. It's been good.
What do you see the future of that concept? Do you see it expanding? Do you see additional locations?
For Harlow, it's counter service. It's high volume counter service. It wasn't at the pre-COVID, it wasn't a huge takeout place. It has definitely shifted to be heavily takeout and delivery. And in the course of us streamlining the menu to let the food, go from us via delivery or pickup to home or wherever the customer is going to take it, has allowed us to kind of reformulate it to allow for speed, efficiency, and in the quick service model or quality counter service. I wouldn't, it's not as quick as say a Chipotle, but it's definitely more curated than that. I think nothing against Chipotle. I love Chipotle, but it's kind of that in between place of counter service and sit down. It has allowed us to modify the model to allow it for expansion. So we are in that phase of, looking at this, as unfortunately a lot of restaurants have closed. It has also opened up a lot of turnkey places that we could go into and capture more market share.
Can you expand on that a little bit? I mean, so I know you mentioned there are some neighborhoods that were almost unapproachable from a cost standpoint, but now seem to be more approachable or make sense that it didn't before?
Well, landlords are really, they want to have their spaces filled. And I think at this point right now, everyone has to be a little more flexible. You don't want to have, you'll be waiting a long time to get the base rent that you had at this point, or you'll have a place that can't sustain it because, for many places, sales aren't what they were. Some are, some aren't. But I think for the vast majority of restaurants, they're not at 100%. And so that gives a little more conversation and communication with landlords and property management groups that they want to fill the space and they're willing to work with different lease structures in the short term until we can all get through this. Because here in Portland, we're still pretty shut down. We're still limited dining, outdoor dining, heavy takeout and delivery. Our phase 1 here is still pretty closed.
Yeah.
Phase 2, whatever that is, when do you see that possibly coming around?
We don't know because it's pretty strict on how Governor Brown wants to see things shape up before we move into that phase for Multnomah County. So it's tough.
There's a percentage point that they're looking for with regard to,
cases,
positivity
deaths.
Cases and percentage of tests in the ratio of positive tests to those being tested. It's a really, it's a very robust percentage, or very low, I should say, percentage that they want to hit before the three counties that all kind of butt up against each other, that are the most populated counties, can move into phase 2. And I think right now they're being even more cautious when they're seeing these spikes and the rumors of second waves happening. But I think, restaurants and bars at this point are kind of on the back burner. They're waiting. They're really looking to try and get schools open, not to get off on tangent with that. But I think we think we're going to be in this phase for a while.
Yeah.
And then you also have, colder weather coming up too. So this outdoor dining situation is going to be, have some impacts, I guess, right?
Oh yeah. The rains are coming. So when the rain comes, so is the wind and the cold. So it kind of cuts that out.
I've heard.
We're fortunate with our location at Harlow. It's a really spacious dining room. So we have been able to do socially distanced dining for people on a first come, first served basis. So that's been helpful. But our other location, Prasad, was very small in a yoga studio. So that one's still closed because the space limitations didn't lend itself to be open with the criteria. And, again, with the airport, it's the same thing. So, we're just keeping open. I think it's really important. Adam and I, when we closed for a day, when the state mandate shut down, we shut down, we laid everybody off, and we looked at each other and said, okay, what can the two of us do to keep going? And I think that's a really key piece to kind of say, okay, as an operator, as an owner or whatever, can you go back into the kitchen and have feet on the ground in the trenches again? Because not only is it just keeping your restaurant open in some capacity, restaurants serve the community. And I think that's a really important piece that, we
can't lose sight of that.
Can't lose sight of that. And I think it's kept us in the cog of all that. And I think that's a really important piece for people to think about, to just get open. If you can get open in some capacity.
Yeah. It's better than being closed, I think.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We did an event in New Orleans right after Katrina, and it was interesting to hear, some of the chefs down there, Donald Link in particular, talk about what happened and how they even considered not opening again, and just abandoning, go somewhere else. And he said once he opened the restaurant, it was kind of cool. It's like he said, people had tears in their eyes because it's a fabric of the community. And he said it really is. And then that this is what a restaurant is. It's not just a restaurant. It is a part of the community.
Right. Yeah. It is. Yeah. And that piece can never go away. And I think that's a super important part that everybody needs to realize and understand. So that's good that you said it.
Yeah. What's interesting too, you guys had mentioned it, that opening the restaurant too means so much more for your staff and getting them more engaged. And can you talk a little bit about what you've done there to keep them part-time so they can still get their unemployment, and how you're trying to keep as many people happy as you can? I thought that was very interesting.
Well, yeah. Well, it was important for us to be able to balance individuals' impacts, because everybody's COVID is different with every single person. And with the staff, we reached out to everybody that we felt that would want to come back and feel safe coming back, and everybody did. And with that being said, we created the balance between unemployment, getting their hours here, and then also getting the federal check. So every case was different, but it was encouraging enough for each employee to be very vocal and just very clear and respectful on what it is that they could do and how it could fit and support the restaurant. And everybody buckled down and are making it work. And, it's been a real boost in the culture. It's been a very shot in the arm for everybody to really have a lot of ownership with what the restaurant is and how it means something to them. And as opposed to just being a job, I really feel that everybody's here for the purpose of the project. And that being said, it's only increased. Our sales have started to increase quicker and quicker and quicker as everybody gets back on board. And the feeling in the restaurant and the reception from the customers is just tenfold from even where it was. So the appreciation of being in the restaurant, the appreciation of putting for the work that really supports what Harlow is all about has, it's definitely played to our favor and been able to really strengthen what it is that we already had into what it is going to be. So
I think also too, for the 2 months that we didn't, we shut down on March 23rd. We started rehiring staff May 15th.
We lost them.
Yeah, I think we have.
And now for a short commercial
We'll
break.
wait a second and come back to that. I thought that was a great point they were about to bring up too. So we'll re-engage when they get back, but you can see their signal starting to get a little weak there. Let's switch over to you, Bill. Bill, obviously a lot of people on this webinar know who you are and know you from our past. And why don't you take us through a little bit of this major career move?
Well, yeah, major is almost putting it mildly. Spent 47 years in the restaurant business as a chef, and 3 years ago, my wife and I decided to buy a little shack on the side of a pretty popular country road just south of Portland and open a farm stand and establish a pretty good size. I like to call it a micro farm, but it's really just a really large, it's about 3,000 square foot garden. And so we sell produce as our primary source of revenue, but we have jams and jellies and things, but everything is produced within about 50 miles of our location, and some of it as close as just outside our window. And so we've been doing it for 3 years, and it was a kind of a rough go for the first year, and then last year was pretty good, but this year, I'm almost embarrassed to say that I think that the current circumstances actually benefited us, because people are really looking for, not just safe, but wholesome, fresh, certainly local options. And we've been able to provide that. And so our business has really done quite well this season. We're open from roughly the middle of May till the end of October. We've got about 2.5 weeks left here, and then we'll shut down. And we've had a wonderful season. But some of what we've done to supplement the produce is that I decided to go back into the kitchen myself. And so on the weekends, we do American Regional Barbecue. After years of traveling all over the United States, I have a pretty good handle on the various regions of barbecue. So we do Texas brisket, and we do a Western North Carolina style pulled pork, and a few other things. And so we do that on the weekends. And then we also do take home kind of grab and go meals from inside the store. And so both of those components have done well for us as well. But just the environment down here, we're about 25 miles south of the southern edge of downtown Portland. So we're out in the country, more or less. And as I said, I just think that, folks looking for other options and, dealing with the realities of all the protocols in the various grocery stores and so on, we were fortunate enough to be identified as an essential business right out of the chute. So we have been open since May. And as I said, we've done well, and we've really enjoyed becoming a part of the community here. We feel like we're kind of a hub. There's not a lot around us other than farms and some horse property. You got to go about 5 miles in either direction to get to some of the suburbs south of Portland. So we're out in a really nice rural space.
Yeah, so you're like right on the verge of Willamette Valley, right? So that's
we are. We really benefit from the fact that we're drawing. All of our farms are in the north end of the Willamette Valley, and then as far north of us as Hood River and Hermiston, where we get our melons. But yeah, we draw a lot of what we sell from the northern Willamette Valley, as well as what we grow ourselves.
Your tree fruit, are you getting that from Hood River as well, or is that mostly?
Yes, we get our tree fruit from Hood River. We start with cherries in the early season and go all the way through now to apples, and then we have a gentleman that helps us by going out to Hermiston for us, and so we get all the amazing melons from out Hermiston.
I remember when we did our culinary road trip before to Hood River a couple of times.
Yeah,
It's so amazing.
Yeah, I mean the tree fruit. I've learned a lot, and I could spend all day talking about just what I've learned from this experience. But I was just amazed as we started to access the tree fruit. The number the Hood River's producing somewhere around 85 different varieties of apples. It's just kind of amazing, just what's up there. And they've had a pretty good season. We've been fortunate to have great weather. We had a warm summer, dry summer, which seems to be becoming the norm now. The rain in Portland seems to have constricted a little bit to fewer months than it used to be years ago. So great weather, and folks really happy to have a local fresh alternative have really done well for us this season.
I think it's Clear Creek, right? Are they still producing the eau de vie up there where they grow the?
They do, yeah. That's a trip to see, because they have a very limited supply of the eau de vie that they grow pears in the bottles. And it's pretty cool. Pretty cool to go up and see these trees that have just bottles hanging all over them, and to learn how they go through that process. Pretty cool.
It really is. And full-time employees that every day are out there making sure that they don't flip over. And
oh yeah, they'd be very careful. They have them on this really interesting attachment of strings that they have to vary, as you said, to make sure that the fruit's rotating properly as it grows in the bottom.
That's cool. So your season is going to be ending soon. So what do you do in the off season? Is it more the kits? Or are you going to keep doing that in the barbecue? Or
well, this year we hope to. We haven't in the last 2 years, but the business has been good enough, and the interest seems to be enough that I think I'm going to continue doing it. But then I do some small kind of custom catering during the holiday season, and then sometimes I pick up a consulting gig to help folks open restaurants. Although that's not a whole lot of that going on right now. But yeah, we're gonna try to carry the take-home meals and the barbecue throughout the fall and the winter.
And you mentioned something about Christmas trees, so you do that as well?
Yeah. So what happens is, we close on Halloween, and for a couple of weeks we kind of retool, and then we open up as a Christmas tree stand. So the parking lot's just jammed. We have we have some folks that partner with us to do that, and last year we just phenomenally successful. Again, there's really nothing in any direction where you can do that. You got to go all the way up into the Lake Oswego neighborhood, about 10 miles north of us, or about 5 miles south of us, to Wilsonville to get to anywhere. So that corridor down there, it's called Stafford Road, and it's a very, very busy rural highway or road. And so the Christmas tree business, we just did it for the first time last year, and we had a great season.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What do? You're going to bleach out a little more so your hair is a little whiter, your beard's a little whiter, and
they've tried to talk me into playing the role, but I've avoided it. I lost a whole bunch of weight. I don't want to go back into a fat suit.
Love it. Well, Jackie and Adam are back, so thanks, for getting back on. But why don't we head back to you for a minute, and then we'll head over to Adam and Alan, for their segment. But I think when we lost you, we were talking about some of the things that are going on with, within the restaurant community, and I wanted to get into the menu a little bit of what you guys have done and how you defined what you were going to do when you opened during this pandemic.
It was just really becoming, I think, even more localized and focused on specific vegetables for the season, and allowing that to kind of shine for itself in regards to how we were cooking it, and just treating it with as much respect as we needed to without any manipulation with it. 'Cause the vegetables out here are incredible. They just stand on their own. I think, Bill knows that as well as anybody. So with that being said, it was great to get back in the kitchen full time, for me, granted, being a line cook again at almost 50 is not advisable, but it was going through the back problems and the sore feet and the headaches. Besides all that, it's been really good. So hunkering down, focusing on the vegetables, getting the best grains we can, making it so one person can really run the line solo and do a full day was key as far as labor was concerned, because that's all we had was me. So we shrunk the menu down just a little bit. We knocked off some of the dishes that didn't necessarily carry as well, which actually in turn just made the other stuff, obviously the sales stronger as far as those dishes were concerned. And it allowed the vegetables to really be highlighted, I think, in regards to this season. So that piece of it was really good for us, and good for me too.
And it seems like you're, go ahead, Jackie.
Oh, we just streamlined it of stuff that Adam could handle. I was in the front making juices and smoothies and hot drinks and running the line and taking online orders and all that. So it was just more what we felt we could handle.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like your menu and your concept really is like futuristic, right? This is where you see the industry going. Yeah.
It is. I mean, because the labor model has to shrink and it has to become incredibly efficient. So, I feel like we're very fortunate with this concept because it is very scalable that way. The low labor, the ability to stay open because we're open 11 hours a day, 7 days a week, and for service. And it only allows, just to talk labor really quick, prep cooks come in an hour ahead, line cooks come in an hour ahead, but and nobody's got overtime. We've noticed that the mentality of the employees at this point are less hours. So we have more cooks with less hours. So we've eliminated the overtime. Everybody is under 20 hours a work week. And that's with me still in the kitchen 5 days a week. But at this point I can do it, and it works out. It works out. So as long as the volume comes up, which it will, the labor model, the food execution, it's in line with each other. So that's been, like I said, silver lining on this whole process, because it's always a struggle with labor. It's always a struggle with execution, and at this point, we've gotten it down to where it's a very viable business model.
It's interesting. So many of the other people we've had on these webinars have talked about how, delivery and takeout was a small piece of the business, and now it's become a very big piece of the business. What's your vision on the future? You think that's going to continue on?
I don't think it's going away anytime soon.
Yeah,
I think at the first part of being shut down, we didn't do delivery just because the cut that the delivery agencies or the delivery companies take was just like, it was cost prohibitive for us. We have a good takeout, pickup, online ordering where people could come in and we would do curbside, run it out to them. They didn't want to come into the restaurant to pick it up. But I think as more and more companies and cities have mandated they have to lower their percentages, that made it more cost effective for us to launch more delivery. And I think we've launched more going into the fall and winter when the weather gets not as great out here. So I think we are definitely seeing more of that. And I think it speaks to, and I know there's a lot of commentary going on with delivery companies and just their fees. I know they need to make money too, and what they do provide a very good service. But it's a big cut when we all know how small our margins are. So right now with Portland, it's a 10% cap on commissions. So a lot better than 30.
Yeah.
And it hasn't affected our labor. We haven't had to hire anyone to do. That's made it viable for us. And I just don't think it's going to go anywhere.
Uh-oh.
Gone again.
I know. That's what's tough sometimes about these.
Because people are now getting used to it.
There you go.
We're
You're back.
going into
Yeah.
7 months now of this. Well, okay, and it's so.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Well, I've got one more question for you, just more specifically about the menu and what are the most, most popular items on your menu, and will it shift as we talked to Bill earlier about the season ending and heading into a winter season? Will it shift slightly because of that?
You kind of cut out there for a minute. Our most popular dishes, the bowls that we offer with either rice or quinoa and the fresh vegetables. We make all of our sauces in-house that are all vegan. Those are highly popular. Mac and cheese that we use a high-protein quinoa pasta for, that we use diet cheddar cheese for the sauce, which actually works really great. That's a great product. Is really good. Salad's kind of weighing off, but the greens that we have, they hold up really well to the time of year. So that's a good position for us.
I think too, we our mix, but our vegetable, it's a seasonal, but the staple piece of it, to let everyone know, is potato. And I think particularly in our niche, there's a lot of dietary modalities that people come in here. They're either, not only do we have celiac, people that are gluten sensitive, they're vegan, they're vegetarian. A big one is we get a lot of people, including ourselves, at cyclically is Whole30, and so there's lots of potato with that. So we definitely have that piece where we incorporate that if someone's doing no grain or they're no sugar or this or that. It's people come here knowing that they can, if they are on a special diet, be it all these an elimination diet, we have it.
Yeah.
Our dishes lend itself to modifications with that. Either it's vegetables that have seasonal root vegetables, potatoes, sweet potatoes, to summer vegetables that have, fingerling potatoes and sweet potatoes and the summer vegetables, it rotates through, but it really is, we're very mindful of our most common requests relating to dietary restrictions.
That's cool. And I know the Whole30 very well. We've done that. Actually, beginning of the year, we started on that and pretty much stuck to it after we did the whole 30 days.
Yeah.
It's a great, really.
It's a incredible reset. We did it 4 times last year, and it was just by the time it was coming around to do it again, I was actually really ready to do it. And it's incredible how quickly you can see the benefits of it. You can tell within a few days without having sugar, without having gluten. It's kind of amazing. So it kind of changed my whole perspective on how to cook for the family and basically how to cook in the restaurants as well. So that was, it was good. It was a benefit on everybody's end.
Very cool. And that's a great segue into the potatoes because it is of the Whole30. So why don't we go over to you guys? Adam, I'm going to turn you over to, you can share your screen now and put your slides up, and you and Alan take us through what you want to share on your innovation side, and then we'll all come back together and wrap this up with some questions.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Jackie, thanks for the shout out on potatoes. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree with you more. So we're going to talk a little bit about what the Idaho Potato Commission does real quickly, and then let Adam get into the practical applications of Idaho potatoes for operators, particularly given the dynamics of the industry. So what do we do? There's a whole host of things that we do. Anywhere from culinary immersions for operators to development of recipes, all day parts, and training. We do a tremendous amount of training. We do troubleshooting, and it's training that anyone can take advantage of. We will also do a lot of branding work on menus. You can go to the next slide. A lot of resources. We've got training resources for operators, distributors. We've got nutritional information that is great to know. You know, a lot of people don't know that, you know, Idaho potatoes have 45% of your daily requirement of vitamin C, more potassium than a banana, high levels of B6 and so forth. Very nutritional, very good nutritional qualities, and only 100 calories per one medium baked potato. But there's things like a food service toolkit that can help you out, anything related to potatoes in terms of operationally. And then we also offer operators financial assistance if you put the Idaho brand on your menu, which further enhances your brand. It's got very high consumer recognition. One of the image on the far right is a coaster that's got the Idaho brand on it that a steakhouse chain participates in with us. And then the other one, mashed potatoes, is a different chain. And it just reinforces your brand by having the Idaho brand on your menu, which is known by 90% of consumers. So we offer that, and we offer financial assistance to operators that put that on their menus as well. And then we have this big 42-foot potato that travels the country. Normally, pre-COVID it did, and planning on getting back out in the spring again next year. And that typically stops at all sorts of festivals, events, parades, state fairs, but it also stops at food service operators. And so that's just another thing that we offer in terms of support for operators at the unit level. So since the pandemic, we've really kind of boiled things down to focusing on 4 things: recognizing the changing dynamics of the industry, which I don't have to get into because it's been talked about to death, but as you guys are doing, and as you noted, you're reducing items on your menu. So we're focused on menu simplification and showing operators how to do more with fewer SKUs. Portability, profitability, and innovation. Portability, we recognize that you need things that travel well, things that are going to maintain their integrity when they get to the consumer. We're focused against that. And of course, all the varieties, russets, yellows, reds, fingerlings, they're all very profitable. And we're focused on developing menu items and recipes that support that profitability. There's also a brand new recipe profit calculator on the website for operators and anybody to use. And so those are the things we're focused on. And like we've always been told, never forget about innovation. And that's where somebody like Adam comes in to help us with keeping Idaho potatoes innovative and developing new and innovative and unique menu items in all day parts. And so with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Adam Moore, who's going to talk to you a little bit about the versatility of Idaho potatoes and about the different things that you can put on your menu relative to innovation.
Thanks, Alan. So my role with Idaho Potatoes is as their corporate consulting chef, and part of that role is to inspire. So I'm going to go through a few slides with everybody today on just some inspiration, specifically with potatoes, but how to think creatively with potatoes, especially under these lenses that we put forth of simplification, portability, and profitability, and ultimately innovating within those. So one of our favorite portable heroes, like when we first started thinking about like what travels well with potatoes, we know that French fries don't, even though there's some ideas there, but what does travel well? And we think of potato salad, and not just grandma's potato salad, but other potato salads like what you see in front of you. There's a lot of different variations from the type of potato to even the format and the ingredients that you put within it. And potato salad just to use this as the example, has a lot of layers to what we can look at in terms of innovating or being creative against. I pulled out a few of those, what I like to call levers, because those are things that you can pick and pull for ultimate creativity and innovation within a recipe. And here's a few within just potato salad. So with taste, I mean, obviously we've got 1,000 flavors, whether it's very close in or something a little bit more far out and global. Potato salad can offer that. Texture, is it crisp? Is it smashed? Is it roasted? Is it flattened, like crisp, crunchy? What are some of those flavors, or even like tender? What are those flavors that you can pull into a potato salad? And then temperature. With anything that's served off premise, we know that it must either maintain its heat or it must maintain its cold. So hot food hot, cold food cold. Potato salad can fit everywhere in between, which is why we love it. And then ultimately visual appeal through color. This example in front of you, this is something that one of our chef friends did, Chef Jamie Simpson at the Culinary Vegetable Institute. He played upon all of those different levers to create his version of potato salad. And so you see here, there's multiple formats of potato. You've got a few of the ingredients pulled out of that are part of traditional potato salad. And at the end of the day, is it truly, really potato salad? I'll let you guys be the judge of that, but it just shows just how far you can go with something as simple potato salad. And that's where I would recommend like even looking into your menu of some of those current items and reinvigorating some of those classic items that you may have on your menu, especially if it is with potatoes, to create new menu items with an existing SKU set. Here are a few other examples that we've taken from these are some chef recipes that we did with some of our other chef friends, and started to put more of a takeout lens and things that would travel well off premise. And so here's smashed Idaho fingerlings. It's from Matt McMillan over at Cooper's Hawk. Fingerlings, they travel great, hold and maintain temperature very well, and the flavor profiles that you can put on them are endless. This is an Idaho potato hash. Hash is a rock star, as you may know, traveling well. I'll let you all decide on whether to put an egg on it or not. But you know, the varieties are endless in terms of flavors and combinations that you can put together, including the type of potato. One of the flavor trends that I've really started following is with Koji and transforming food with Koji. But from a national chain level, you know, it's hard to imagine how you'd ever incorporate Koji. And this was one that we just recently did with Chef Jeremy Urbanski's from Larder in Cleveland. He actually used Shio Koji, which is an already prepared form of it, and just mixed in with a little bit of heavy cream to make his own Koji sour cream. So in essence, it is a speed scratch recipe to incorporate a trend like Koji easily into your menu. Of course, with potato latkes, if it's in a takeout scenario, you can keep all of those ingredients separate to maintain texture. Latkes we found actually heat really well once they get to the other side. So if you wanted to store these even cold, have them go off to the end consumer to where they're reheating them in the microwave or even in a pan, they're very easy to do that way. When speaking upon profitability, obviously using and utilizing your ingredients as much as possible is important. And so with the potato, we look at all the different ways that you can not only utilize the potato, but incorporate the potato. And potatoes work extremely well within baked items for moisture and tenderization. So consider even incorporating that if you're left with a glut of potatoes, incorporating into things like baked items, pies, stews, pastas, even pizzas. It works really well on. Here's a few other examples. On the left, traditional Johnny cakes. We love using potatoes in pancakes and those style of cakes. It helps them hold well, especially as they travel, and keeps texture and moisture. When thinking about different equities of potatoes, so like traditional loaded baked potatoes and turning into something new and on trend, that's where like loaded Idaho potato takoyaki. These are a couple of the ideas that we were going to serve at Flavor Experience this year. Unfortunately, didn't have the opportunity to do that. but it's the way that we're thinking about not only incorporating potatoes, but keeping them fresh and something that's on trend and exciting for customers. And when it comes to innovation, lo and behold, we've got now 100% plant-based potatoes. If you didn't think that joke was funny, it's Alan's joke, so you can blame it. If you did think it's funny, it was my joke. But either way, we all love Idaho potatoes, 100% plant-based. And when it comes to innovation with potatoes, that's what we're here to just inspire. And we know that these items may not necessarily be something that you can do in your operation, but we hope that there's a nugget of an idea there to help inspire your next creative menu session within your restaurant for something new that would work under the lens of your brand. So on the left, this was a completely vegetarian or vegan item with Idaho potato and Impossible Burger. And we rolled these up into little lollipops and put a vegan cheese right over the top of it. So it's kind of like our twist on a cheeseburger and French fries. To the right, you've got Idaho bomboloni with a little bit of stuffed with Nutella. Really the thing that we liked incorporating potato into a donut type application was really to drive that moisture and that texture within the donut. When leaning into the equities of other takeout items, Idaho stuffed pizza bites. So we're really playing into pizza, but this also incorporates dehydrated potatoes. So in the event that your operation can't use a fresh item, dehydrated items are always an option. So whether it's shreds or mashed potatoes that are somewhat dreaded and frowned upon, you can turn those into very flavorful items that it's hard to tell the difference between fresh, a frozen, or dehydrated item. So that's where something like a stuffed pizza bite comes into play. And then on the right, we really wanted to focus on the trend of Korean honey butter chips, but bring that into more of an approachable item. And so that's where we have the Idaho honey butter pretzel bites. And we use the same process of pretzeling with the bites, with those potato bites. Then a couple other things, Idaho potato chicharron. So, could you do an actual chicharron? Maybe, maybe not. But if you can't, think about all the different ways that you could drive texture and shape, even with potato chips. But the idea here was to really leverage the pork chicharron, and this is made using leftover scraps, or could even be used using the flesh of the potato, dehydrating it, and then deep frying it at high temperature to create that new format and that shape and that chip-like texture. The inspiration of this came from a restaurant in Copenhagen called Amos, and their whole story was about bringing forth zero waste within their restaurant, utilizing every aspect of their food supply stream. And the way that they started their meal was with these potato chips that were actually made from the skins of the potato that have been turned into that pulp that they then used, dehydrated, turned into potato chips. They started the meal with that and told the restaurant story, which we thought was really cool. It engaged us immediately, told us what the restaurant was about, and brought forth a very innovative item like that. And that's what inspired the chicharron. A couple other things, rethinking the way to look at twice-baked potatoes. So that's in the top right there with a twice-baked potato bite. And then to the bottom, re-envisioning what a traditional flautas would look like. So instead of a rolled tortilla with cheese, this was rolled potato with a little Mornay. And we serve that at the 2019 Flavor Experience. So if you missed that and you want us to do it again, be happy to do so. And then sometimes it's just best to keep it simple, stupid. The best way to really focus on your brand and to focus on your items, that if you can't focus on innovation, focus on the core and focus on the things that you do right. And let's make sure we're accomplishing the basics first. And that's something that we love to help with, whether it's creating the best possible potato chip, baked potato, roasted item, French fries, you name it. Let's always go back to the basics. And I'll leave you on one last thing, which is kind of keeping it simple, but this is just straight up beautifully fried Idaho russets with a little bit of Parmesan and prosciutto over the top of that. So that's my way of keeping it simple. Maybe with a glass of champagne. That's how I roll. So thanks for going through that, and happy to answer questions.
Adam, that's awesome. I, in particular, too, I absolutely love that shot that you had of just a baked potato, right? I mean, the photography and all of that really was really quite amazing. And I thought, on a conversation we had yesterday with Jackie and Adam, too, was interesting about you guys. Pancakes, one of your most popular items, you said, but you took it off the menu just because of the deliverable, aspects of it, and it not being able to live up to what you wanted it to be when it's delivered. So I don't know, maybe that's a conversation you guys can have offline or together or whatever about how potatoes can play a role in that.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, I thought that was great. And I'll do a shout out to RJ, who's on here as well. RJ Harvey is one of the corporate chefs for Potatoes USA, who does a tremendous job in, creativity with potatoes as well. But it's been really interesting to see in these 5 months. I guess we're all, hanging at home, spending a lot more time on the phone and or the computer and social media. And it's been inspiring, really, to see everybody engage in throwing out ideas and trying to find ways to inspire people, even though we can't get face to face, but hopefully that's going to be coming soon. So, with that in mind, I mean, so Adam and Jackie, I'll go to you first. I mean, we're almost at the end. I mean, give us some, parting shots. I mean, what can we do? Hopefully we're going to be with you next year. We'll determine if it's going to be around the same time. Right now, it's kind of the plan is to come there in October of next year. But give us some parting shots that you would want to say to both corporate chefs and our sponsors and the community that are listening about, where we're going in this future and, and what role you see yourselves playing and us playing in it.
Well, I think it's, it's as an independent restaurateur is really just helping those independents keep going. I know depending on the size of the corporation, the various chefs on that are attending this, just help your independence, and I think, I think in one regard or another, everyone's got to make a shift in some way, and just, I think for us, we've never strayed far from our roots as being a baker, a cook, a host, all the many hats that we're worn in our restaurant. Adam and I, this is a time that it's a silver lining to reconnect. And I think it's really fun. This is a great time to foster relationships with the community, whether it's with Idaho Potato or whether it's with just those communications with your vendors and your customers and thinking small to be big, I think is really important right now.
I think just to elaborate on that from my perspective, it's been an opportunity to really start over and really fix all the things that when you're on the bus and it's going a million miles an hour, it's really tough. Mm-hmm. To make those pivots. But when you shut down and you start from scratch again, it's an opportunity to really hone in and make your business stronger and more viable and more profitable from a way that the pivot of what everybody's being forced into to look at it from those eyes through those binoculars and really hone in on how you can make it through this in a way that we're all survivors, because everybody in the restaurant industry is a survivor, right? Look at Bill, man, he's still going. So it's one of those testimonies that I think it speaks to our industry that if you get an opportunity to really hone in on how you can make things better by unfortunately having to stop the train, but getting back on that train and being more focused on how you can strengthen your approach in your business, this is the time to do it. So take advantage of it and understand that, yeah, it's hard work, but you know what? We're in this for hard work. We wouldn't all be on this podcast if we weren't hard workers. So it's one of those pieces where take the time, put the energy in, because we know we all got it.
That's awesome. That is really, really cool. Thank you so much for that. Bill?
Yeah.
Final comments there?
Well, as I said, we've just been, our operation has just been blessed to be appealing to folks at this, in these times. And so, but I think it speaks to folks' interest in fresh and local. And I realize that that's always a challenge for the corporate operators. But I tell you what, I've learned so much. I've been just so honored to be a part of the farming community here in the Willamette Valley. And so I'll just say keep it fresh.
Nice. Alan?
I just want to thank the operators for being on. Kevin, I want to thank you for hosting this, and especially Adam Moore for his creativity. What we're doing is we're focused on supporting operators, particularly during this dynamic business environment when it's difficult to know what tomorrow is going to bring, with states opening and closing and the availability of product always in question based on inventories that you might have or your distributors might have, or reduction of menu items, increasing menu items, hours of service issues. And so we're focused on what we can do to help operators. And that is a pretty large basket of goods right now, because everybody's looking for something a little bit different. But we're here, and I don't want this to sound trite, but we're here to be a resource for operators and help operators as much as we can through this by helping them simplify things. And the profitability piece is real, because using potatoes can be very profitable for you. So that's what we're focused on. We're focused on helping operators as a commodity board, as a marketing board. We don't sell anything. So our interests really lie in helping you utilize product the best way you can for yourself. And that's what we're here for. So Kevin, thanks for giving us, this opportunity to do it. And again, thanks to the operators, and thanks Adam Moore for his wonderful creativity as always.
Thank you.
Thanks. Adam?
Yeah, I would just, I'd piggyback on just what Alan said around being a resource. I live in a pretty, dynamic world in terms of my role with Idaho Potatoes, as well as in between operators. And so whether that's working with potatoes or helping create a connection someplace else, right now I just try to be a good human and understand, what's going on in this. Right now, it's just absolutely killing some small mom and pops, and even all the way up into some of the national chains. And so I just try to be a good human and listen and understand some of the challenges that everyone's facing today, and just find where I can either be a resource or an area of support for those that are going through this, or just to be a good friend and let's have drinks once we can all get back on the road again. But, however I can assist anyone at any time. You've got my contact, and obviously we'd love to do something with potatoes, but even if it's not with potatoes, I'm always a resource or an ear to listen to what you may need. So I put that out there for our industry, and just thank Kevin for setting this up to give us a platform to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, and thanks to all of you and to our sponsors and members who are on here. Mike, you've probably seen, he's putting some visuals up for us during this so he could show some of the things, some of the dishes that Adam and Jackie have done at their restaurants. And he's got our closing video that he'll put on for us. But again, thanks to everyone. We really appreciate it. I totally agree with, we're trying to help independents and chains and do what we can. We're in an open state where Florida is, pretty much totally open right now. So we're going out as much as we can to try to support the industry and keep businesses alive. So I think that's part of our role and part of what we need to do to make sure that those employees at restaurants are taken care of and tipped well, and that we'll all get through this. So thank you again. We really appreciate it. 2 more weeks from now on Wednesday, we will be, that's the 28th of October. We'll do that one. And then on the 11th of November, we've got a very special one that we're doing with another tasting. So it's going to be a Scotch and whiskey tasting. So I think we all need a little of that right now, or potato vodka, staying on theme. Mike, you're on.